There we go, that's better. Okay, take two here. Take one, I didn't have the light on the camera on, so it wasn't working too good. This is our latest acquisition, or my latest acquisition. This is another Philco antique radio. This one is, if I remember the model correctly, we'll find out in a minute when I swing things around here, the 41-226. It is AM and shortwave. Really cool looking little radio. The grill here features, I've looked up on the internet, and this warping that you see on this grill here and down here, that whole grinning thing or scowling thing that it does, the way it warps, that's common on this radio. Evidently most of the models that exist today all have that warpage to them, and parts are, I haven't found that grill yet. But anyway, I got this for $30 at another thrift store. Thrift store finds seem to be pretty big lately. Here I have another AM station going on in the background. That's on the Sony. This radio is, of course, all tubes, made in 1941. I'm going to swing this around. Now, I've already had the chassis out, so you're going to notice some disconnected wires here. The two leads here for the antenna have been disconnected. And what's really cool about this is those preset buttons you saw on the front, this little bank of variable capacitors on the top. These trimmers, most of these are what you set for those push buttons. So you actually tune the station using these trimmer caps. It's got it looks like a 2-gang standard tuning capacitor. As you can see, it's full of Phillips Lochtel tubes. There's the part number and final inspection sticker there, and instructions on how to and it says, built to receive television sound the wireless way. So back in the old days, you could get TV sound. Over here, let's see if I can get stabilized on that. That is the tube complement, tube layout and tube complement, including the famous Philco XXD tube, which turns out to be, I think it's a 14BY7. It's a standard tube. It's just hand selected by Philco for each radio, and the radio is attuned to that because it's the tube on basically on the front end of the radio. This radio does not work very well. It does work. It did power up and with no drama, no sparks, no smoke, no burning components or anything, but it does not perform well. And I'm going to stop this video for a few moments, turn off the other radio, and I'm going to rig this chassis so we can take a better look at it. Okay, I pulled the chassis out of the cabinet now, and I've got it sitting on its side right now because I want to show you the internals. So I'm going to do an overhead shot. You can see the speaker is still in pretty good condition. The felt around it has gotten loose. The paper comb, however, is intact. Pretty rare for a radio of this size. The dial pointer's in good shape. A little dirty, dusty, but needs a little clean. The dial plate, as you can see, is flawless, pristine. The pilot light does not work. The dial light does not work. But that's okay. That's something easy to change. Now I'm going to try, let's see if I can turn the radio chassis just right side up. I may have to hold this so to, okay, well, it's not going to fall. Good. And here's the internals. As you can see, it's got a bunch of the old wax capacitors, and I believe that is why this radio does not perform well. I will power it up here shortly and let you hear it. It's pretty densely packed for a radio of this vintage. So changing some of the capacitors will be a little bit difficult. But as I said, there does not appear to be any major flaws with the radio itself. Here's the dry electrolytic made by Arco Electronics. Very ironic because the city of Arco in Idaho is close by to where I live here. Now the camera's not going to focus anymore. Okay, camera quit being a putz. Okay, let's see if I can back away and make it focus a little bit better. Come on, focus, damn you. Anyway, so there is a transformer under there. It goes. Now it's going to snap into focus. There's a transformer down there, which I believe, I got to look at the schematic again. I believe that this is a transformer type set. Here are the selector buttons. Give you a close-up of those. As you can see, they're dirty, need to be cleaned, as do the contacts of the selector assembly. And here you go, let's pre-select a station there, and you can see they're just simple wiper type contacts that are exposed. And that one right there in particular showed how dirty and corroded these really are. So this is going to need a good cleaning. This is the power on off switch right here. It is a click click type push button. There's the actual on off switch right. See, I don't know if I can get a good angle on this. Here it is right there. I'm trying to point with my finger. There you go. There's the power on off switch for this radio. Again, here's the bank of capacitors that you use to tune those preset buttons. And actually, by looking at the top, you can see which capacitor tunes which. Okay, here's the tube complements. You have a 35Z3, a 35A5. I believe this is the audio output tube, if I remember correctly. Buried inside of here are the 7B7 and 7C7, I believe they are. 7C8 it looks like, or 7C6 it looks like. I'm trying to read this label and it's kind of hard. Then you have a 7B7 and the illustrious XXD tube. Now, I want to take a look at something. Yeah, the 7B7 is supposed to be by the tuning dial, and the XXD is near the back. This right here is the XXD tube. You can just barely make out the lettering on the top. And as I said, the radio does power up, but however, it does not have a, basically it does not work well. It has a lot of, it's very, very weak in volume. It's distorted. I really believe that those capacitors are at fault for that, and so I'm going to get those changed. I already made the list. I just need to order the capacitors and actually change them. I wish I knew where I put the schematic for this thing, because I just printed one out here not too long ago. I see the Spartan schematic down here. Up here it is, up on top of the bench. And here is the schematic for the radio. And looking down at the AC cord, I am incorrect. This is not a transformer set. It is connected directly to the line, so it is a potentially hot chassis radio. Yeah, I'm looking at the power supply right here, this section. Yep, that looks like a hot chassis set to me. I do not see a transformer of isolation. I do see the field coil for the speaker, but not a transformer. Okay, so we know that this is a live chassis set, which is a good thing, because I was very careful when I powered it up for testing not to actually touch it other than by the knobs when I was testing it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause once again. I'm going to connect the antenna leads. I've got clip leads to the antenna in the back of the box here. I'm going to connect the antenna clip leads. We're going to plug it in and turn it on, and I'll let you hear its, well, lack of performance. Okay, we are plugged into the receptacle. Now, I would use the GFI receptacle for this for obvious reasons, but unfortunately, the workbench is sitting on a concrete floor, and believe it or not, wood has just enough conductivity that it will probably trip the GFI if I happen to have the hot side of the plug to the chassis of the radio. Now, that's a good thing, because it would obviously keep me from getting lit up, but for the purposes of what we're trying to do here, it would suck. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is, like I say, I'm going to turn the switch on here. Now, I have no idea which state the actual on-off switch in the radio's in. Trying to see if I can see any glow from the tubes. Let's turn this work light off here. Turn the bench lights off, because they're also going to create a bunch of AM static if they're on. And I'm not seeing any glow for the tubes, so I think I need to hit the power switch. There we go. Now I see a glow from the tubes. Again, I'm assuming this is a hot chassis radio, so I'm going to be very careful not to actually touch the chassis while I'm doing my demonstration. This middle switch is your shortwave broadcast band selector, volume, and of course, tuning. Okay, we're going to let the set warm up. Here we go, now. Now I have the volume maxed. So as you can hear, now that right there is the vicinity of the radio we were listening to. That's around 1410 or so on the dial. That's where I was with the other radio. But as you can hear, there's very little output. And the tubes are glowing. I'm not seeing any red plates or purple plates. It does look like my XXD tube is not glowing, however. I cannot see any filament on it at all. Again, I have to be very careful not to touch this thing. Here, let's turn that off for a second so I can spin it around without getting bit. Let's spin this around so we can look at the other side and look at these tubes a little better. Get them into some darkness. Okay, now we'll turn it back on. Yeah, the XXD tube, if it's glowing very faintly. I did try previously sorry, I had you looking down my foot there. I did try previously the tapping on the tubes method to see if there was any symptoms of bad tubes. I don't think it has bad tubes. It might, but it might not. I really think the problem is those wax capacitors, because they do go bad. And if they've basically turned themselves into resistors now, like they usually do when they get bad, then that's why we're not getting any performance from this radio. Because otherwise it should be. Now I can tweak things a little bit here, and I can increase the volume. I can use the volume, increase the volume a little bit of the static, but I can't get any real improvement on the performance of this radio at all. Basically what you're hearing, that little sputtering, tiny little bit of audio that it's doing, that's about all you get out of it. So it is a restoration project. I will be doing the restoration on it shortly. I'll probably document most, if not all, of the process. Let's see if any of my tubes are cold. Those guys aren't very warm at all. The other thing I'm going to look into is on the schematic diagram. Come back to that for a minute. You can see a couple of ballast resistors. Looks like 53 ohms and 89 ohms. I'm going to see if I can get the camera to focus on them. Come on. Okay, the camera on my phone is being real stubborn today. There you go. You can see the two ballast resistors down there. It's entirely possible one or both of those is also out of value and causing some of the difficulty that this radio has. But with my finger in the way of the camera, this is gonna be a real crappy video. But oh well. Anyway, that's the latest acquisition. So I've ordered the capacitor order I'm placing is for both this and the Spartan. You may remember I mentioned I also have down here, here's the chassis of the Philco 48482, which I have a service manual for. There's the chassis right there. There's the cabinet sideways. This one does AM, FM, and shortwave. This is a very complex radio. It has some of the same tube complement that the 426 does. So I was trying initially to do a little bit of tube swapping and see if I could get the radio to come to life. I think the one tube I didn't try was the front end tube, because I can't remember if this one takes an XXD also in the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video right now, or pause it. And if by chance that's an XXD tube right here, I'm going to try to swap it with the XXD tube in this radio and see if we get any better performance. So let's stand by for a moment. Okay, back for the short answer on the 48-482. Nope, that tube is known as an FM 1000. So again, another proprietary part number that Philco used. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up, get it uploaded. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll keep you posted on the progress of this radio. This one is probably going to be my first one to restore right here. Then we will do the Spartan, and then finally we'll actually power up and troubleshoot the 48-42. I have not powered it up since I got it. It, again, as you can see by looking at the chassis, I'm just going to give you an overview here. The light exaggerates the situation, but it is filthy. It is very dirty. There's lots of corrosion. The capacitor plates are absolutely caked with crud. As you can see, the capacitor itself has got corrosion and just a massive dirt buildup. And so this radio is going to need a lot of TLC before I even attempt to power it up. It is a transformer type set, thankfully. So that helps a lot. I do have a Variac now. Let me show you that real quick. There's my Variac, courtesy of Amazon. The cord you see running to it, this is actually kind of cool. This is a display that you can also get off of Amazon. Let me power this up real quick. It's probably upside down. Nope, it's right there. This is a cool little unit. It's a D-Rock display. It gives you your voltage, your amperage, your wattage, your frequency, the kilowatts, and the power factor. The power factor is lower right-hand corner. Kilowatt hours is next to it. 60.0 is the frequency, line frequency here in the U.S. 0 is the wattage being drawn. 118.45 is my line voltage right now. And of course the amperage is at 0 because there's no load connected to it. I use that for the purposes of when I was powering up the Philco, so I could monitor the voltage and the current. As you can see, the Variac has a voltmeter, but this gave me the ability to monitor the voltage and the current, and specifically the wattage, because this radio is rated at like something like 30-something watts of power. So that gave me an idea while I was powering it up if there were any shorts or other things that would make me have to back down and stop providing it with power. But anyway, so that's how that's another nifty little accessory you should pick up. When I upload the video, I'll try to provide the link to the particular one that I bought, this particular display. You do have to build it in your own little box. So you can see I haven't done a good job strain relieving the cords. This box is intended to eventually mount up here in the kick plate, the front plate of the workbench, so it'll be right at a glance as you're working on a project, as opposed to right now sitting amidst all the clutter. And as that old saying goes, if a messy workbench is a sign of genius, then I must be a super genius based on how messy this workbench is. Anyway, well, hope you all have a good weekend and a good week, and I'll get this uploaded and we will do the other part. Again, oh, by the way, I do have one of the magic arm mounts right here, and I have another foam that I'm going to experiment with using as my camera. This particular magic arm, this is a Amazon special, and as you can see, I've tightened it up, and yet it still likes to move. It's not supposed to do that. So this is not a very good clone. I do like the Lonzi phone mount, the Ulanzi phone mount. You can get that separately from the arm, which is what I did. The arm, like I say, as of right now, and I don't think I can blame the arm for that. That's actually where it's coming loose from the magic clamp here. it's spinning because it's loose from the clamp, and again, but it shouldn't be doing that either. Anyway, so I've got the magic arm, so I can eventually just do a steady cam overhead shot of what I'm working on the workbench. So for now, we'll just have the by hand unsteady cam. Anyway, well, that's it for tonight, and we'll catch you next time.